Welcome, age of vintage society. Some might say that Clint Eastwood met his match in Sondra Locke. A kind of Dirty Harry meets Dirty Harriet, as she once described herself. She appeared in 6 of Eastwood's films, starting as his character's love interest in the outlawed Josie Wales. How Clint Eastwood ruined Sondra Locke's career. Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Sondra Locke, actor whose career was overshadowed by Clint Eastwood. Sondra Locke's story needs a bigger star. While she did not regret meeting the Dirty Harry star, doing so set her on a trajectory away from the promise of her early success. The problem with Sondra Locke's autobiography, The Good, the Bad and the Very Ugly, is that there's way too much about Sondra Locke in it. There are times I wish I had only read it and never lived it, she once said. She's the actress who loved, lost and then sued Clint Eastwood, with whom she lived for 13 years. He shed her in 1989 and, by way of settlement, arranged a directing deal for her at Warner Brothers. Inspired by the magic window of her local cinema, she went on to clinch her first role in 1968's The Heart is a Lonely Hunter, for which she gained an Oscar nomination. But despite her success in acting and later directing, Locke never seemed to fit in with the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Her career was in no small part overshadowed by her relationship, both on screen and off, with Clint Eastwood. She was born Sandra Louise Smith in Shelby, Tennessee, to Pauline Bain, a factory worker, and to Raymond Smith, a soldier, who left the family. Bain married Alfred Locke, a carpenter, 4 years later, a young girl from a painfully normal neighbourhood in Tennessee who dreamed of becoming an actor but came from a family that shunned creativity. At school she was an outsider with few friends, finding comfort in the friendship of a boy called Gordon Anderson. Locke credited an argument with her mother when she was 19 for spurring her on to leave home. "If you don't want to do exactly as I tell you, you can pack your bags, girl, and get out of here," she recalled. Locke said in one interview, "These were words that had been said in so many different ways, but never out loud, and they were words that gave me the anger, the courage and the initiative to go." Locke was a cheerleader and class valedictorian in junior high and attended Shelbyville Central Senior High School, where she was again valedictorian and voted Duchess of Studiousness by classmates. She graduated in 1962. She later enrolled at, but did not graduate from, Middle Tennessee State University, majoring in drama. Later, Locke worked in the promotions department for WSM-TV in Nashville, when she lived in the city for approximately 3 years and modelled for the Tennessean fashion page. She appeared in a handful of plays before winning a nationwide talent search in 1967 to be cast opposite leading man Alan Arkin in the movie adaptation of Carson McCullers' 1940 novel The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. She would win raves for the role, along with nominations for a Golden Globe and an Oscar. Both awards went to Ruth Gordon for Rosemary's Baby. In October 1975, during the making of the Civil War set The Outlawed Josie Wales, she and Eastwood became romantically involved on location in Page, Arizona. They eventually moved into a Bel Air mansion that was built in 1931. After they became a couple, Locke acted almost exclusively in Eastwood films at Warner Brothers, co-starring with him in The Gauntlet, Every Which Way But Loose, Bronco Billy, Any Which Way You Can, and Sudden Impact, with the actor directing all but 2 of those as well. She said Eastwood insisted she work with him alone. One exception came when singer Rosemary Clooney personally asked Locke to portray her in a 1982 biopic for CBS. In Every Which Way But Loose and Any Which Way You Can, she played country music singer Lynn Halsey Taylor and shared billing with an orangutan. "I didn't want to be up there with the orangutan," Locke said in a 1996 interview with the Los Angeles Times. "I was there because I was in love and Eastwood wanted me to be there, and I loved working with him and we were together. But I didn't want that." In 1972 she spoke to Clint Eastwood about a role in his film Breezy. Despite turning her down for Kay Lenz, at 27 Locke was too old to play a 17-year-old. Eastwood remembered Locke's talent and in 1975 invited her to meet. The pair clicked. She then was cast in 1976 film The Outlaw Josie Wales, the first of 6 movies the Locke would star in as Eastwood's sidekick. Others included Bronco Billy and Sudden Impact. Let's stop for a minute and think about it. Do you think Sondra Locke would have ever imagined then that Clint Eastwood, her colleague, a real Hollywood star, would ruin her future one day? Love is a whipsaw, or fame even more. The couple became inseparable and lived together for 13 years, although Eastwood was still married to his first wife, Maggie Johnson. 9 years into Eastwood's affair with Locke, who was 14 years his junior, he finally divorced Johnson. Locke said, "I seemed to bring out the little boy in him, and although he loved me for my childlike nature, he brought out the woman in me." Her very headstrong and independent demeanour, however, would prove to be her demise. Tired of playing second fiddle, she decided to make her own directorial debut. Locke and Eastwood had an often contentious relationship for more than a dozen years, which ended in a bitter palimony suit she filed against him in 1989. They settled after about a year, but she later sued him again in the mid-90s for what the suit claimed was a sham development and directing deal at Warner Brothers that Eastwood had set up. Included in the ensuing settlement was $1.5 million. She then brought a separate lawsuit against Warner's, which also was settled out of court. The studio, however, did not greenlight any of the 30 projects that she pitched, she said, nor did it hire her to helm any of its in-house projects. Locke contended that it was Eastwood who secretly financed the bogus deal. It created a dead end for her career, her lawyer said. So she sued him again in June 1995 for fraud, intentional interference with her ability to earn a living, and breaching his financial duty to her. Her income in 1994 and 1995, she testified, was zero. In September 1996, after a 2-week trial that riveted Hollywood and also featured testimony from Eastwood and Warner's executives, Locke settled again after seeking $2.5 million. Jurors said they were ready to decide in her favour. "I don't have to worry about working," she told reporters after the settlement, the terms of which were undisclosed. She said her suit was never about money, it was about my fighting for my professional rights. In 1989, Locke's charmed life came to an end as Eastwood broke up with her, she later wrote. The locks were changed and her things were placed outside a home she thought had been a gift from Eastwood. The following year she released her memoir titled The Good, the Bad and the Very Ugly, A Hollywood Journey, which also detailed the double mastectomy and chemotherapy that came with her first bout with breast cancer. She told at the time that the title, a play on one of Eastwood's films, was applicable to the story. "I try to cover the good years as well as the bad and the ugly," Locke said. Also that in even the worst ugly things there can sometimes be a lot that will make you a better person. Eastwood at first supported her ambitions, helping her with the rather odd film Rat Boy. However, multiple factors in their relationship, Locke's independence among them, contributed to a breakup that would see Eastwood emerge without criticism and Locke struggle with lawsuits against him. On her directing, Locke said, I understood it would be at the risk of our relationship, and when I did, that was the beginning of the end. My biggest misfortune, my greatest regret, is that I wish I'd cut my time with Clint in half, she said. I wouldn't say I wish I never had the relationship, but I wish I'd found a way, I'd understood who he was, where it would end, 5 or 6 years earlier, so I could have gotten on with things. Locke claimed that she was frozen out of Hollywood after her breakup with Eastwood. As an all-American hero, he was untouchable. His public did not want to hear that he was flawed. "I'm sorry he is who he is," she said just before her book came out. "As sorry as people are going to be, it was far more devastating to me to find out who he really was." Locke had married actor Gordon Anderson in 1967. According to her death certificate, the two were still legally married when she died, and he was the person who reported her death. She described their relationship in 1997 as just good friends, despite Anderson being openly homosexual, and remained lifelong friends. A phone number listed in Anderson's name rang without being picked up. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit my Patreon page. Now it is your turn. What do you think about Sondra Locke and Clint Eastwood's relationship?